If you haven't heard, I'm over on Substack now and I'm having a blast. I recently wrote an article on the astrological houses of superstition and conspiracy. That's something I have no reason to talk about here, but I have every reason to write about it in Moon Matters magazine on Substack. Go subscribe and subscribe to this podcast while you're in a subscribing mood. To want support and attention is to be human. To beg shamelessly for it on a public platform is to be a podcaster. Let's get into this week's forecast. Mars is seated in Gemini, Jupiter is comfy in Leo, and Mercury is moonwalking its way through Cancer. All is right with the world. We don't have nearly as many planetary shifts happening this week, thank goodness. This week is more about adjusting to the shifts in energy that last week ushered in. Don't get me wrong, there are still some important things that go down this week, but they seem to pale in comparison to having both a full moon and Mercury's retrograde station on the same day like we did last week. That Mercury retrograde station was insanely loud. I think it stationed around exactly 1:35 p.m. Eastern time, and I had a client at 1:30. I remember looking at the time and I was like, all right, something might go down. And during the Zoom, my AirPods randomly just decided to glitch and they couldn't hear me anymore. And that was at 1:38. So 3 minutes right after it stationed. And then they magically just came back on. So it was loud for me. I don't know if it was loud for you, but we're fully in it now. Last Monday was hyper productive for me, even though there was that little glitch. The full moon was my 4th house, and the Mercury retrograde was/is my 10th house. I was clearing out the garage. I was setting up the new exercise bike, baking a double batch of cookies, all while meeting with a bunch of you guys about my astrological apprenticeship program. And that's when the famous glitch happened with my AirPods. The next fleet of students has arrived, and I'm super excited to work with all of you. So thank you for working with me through any of the snafus that Mercury's retrograde has brought so far. This is all to say that last Monday was intense, but not in a bad way. The energy was demanding a certain level of maturation, of being an adult, needing to adult, so to speak, and we're still riding that wave with Mercury's retrograde in Cancer. The part that the realm of Capricorn played last week should be well on its way out the door by now, and we're mostly focusing on the realm of Cancer and reworking that area of life to suit what the situation is calling for. We'll continue to do this in varying degrees as Mercury's retrograde marches on over the next 3 weeks, so you will still have plenty of time to bake your double batch of cookies, literally or figuratively. This week, another planet stations retrograde, Neptune in Aries. I'm not super focused on this, if I'm going to be honest with you. Just like with Pluto being retrograde, it's a good thing to note, but it's not something that I personally would put a ton of stock in unless you have Neptune hitting prominent natal placements. I'm a traditional astrologer, and that's just my take. Societally, this retrograde may be more important or notable, but personally, I wouldn't sweat it unless, again, it's hitting natal placements for you. I would rather you stay focused on Mercury's retrograde in Cancer and not let those opportunities for reevaluation go to waste, especially because Mercury's retrograde is a lot shorter. Neptune will be there and will still be retrograde in 3 weeks. Focus on Cancer and what needs done there. That retrograde takes place on July 7th, and Neptune won't station direct until December. So like I said, plenty of time to work with it if you want to. The other energy we have early on in the week is the Sun in Cancer squaring Saturn in Aries. This energy peaks on Monday and we'll feel it until about Wednesday. This is going to partly contribute to the energy of Mercury's retrograde because the Sun is in Cancer and because that full moon in Capricorn was Saturn ruled and it was squaring the ruler. So we're seeing a slight continuation of this energy. The Sun square Saturn is going to push us, and we need to make sure it's in the right direction and in the right way. There's been a lot of cardinal energy that's been receiving harshness or the need to take action. So that's what we're feeling with this square early on in the week. We need to take action and we need to make a move, but it needs to be thoughtful and pointed. Remember that Aries needs a goal and the realm of Cancer is currently under construction. So the action we take needs to be helpful and constructive rather than thoughtless and inhibitory. Basically, let's not stand in our own way at the start of the week. Mars is also going to be making some aspects early on. It's going to be trining Pluto, sextiling Neptune, and conjunct Uranus. All outer planet tomfoolery. This might be more interesting for mundane astrologers or people who keep up with current events, because these are the first aspects that Mars is really making since it ingressed into Gemini. Expect a lot of mouth running early on in the week, especially from political or societal figures. That's just my mundane take. But personally, this is more about not doing too much too fast with too little info. Mars is having us flit and flutter, which I personally enjoy because this is my Mars return, but not everyone operates this way. Our energy will be strong, but also highly susceptible to being scattered at the start of the week, so wrangle your mind accordingly. Lots of new ideas are coming through the pipeline, so be sure they're ones you actually want to take action on in practice, not just in theory. For instance, Mars in Gemini is in my 9th house, and I requested my transcripts from college because I got this crazy idea that I'm going to go back to school for like Ayurvedic medicine. And will I? Probably not. But it's just something that I was like, man, that's a nice program. I think I should probably be doing that. So don't allow yourself to go down too many rabbit holes. Explore them, look at them, see the possibilities. But our energy needs to be wrangled. Our ideas need to be wrangled. Don't let this outer planet, this generational planet tomfoolery push you into something that you don't need to be doing. Later in the week, we have our other planetary shift, which is Venus ingressing into Virgo. The short time of Jupiter and Venus both being in Leo is coming to an end. It was great. I wore lots of leopard print and my hair was big, but I always wear leopard print and my hair is always a little big in the summer. But you get what I mean. The small window where we had both Jupiter and Venus in Leo, it felt so cute, but now we're on to a different kind of cute, a more calculated and curated kind of cute. Venus does experience fallen dignity in Virgo, but that's okay, it's still cute. Venus in Virgo is very detail-oriented and is highly critical. It's critical of itself, others, and its art, its creations, its connections. This critical nature is not for the sake of being mean or nasty. It's like having a discerning eye for art or being able to see the flaw in something so you can fix it. It's not pointing out a flaw for the sake of the flaw. It's pointing out a flaw for the sake of the solution. This is the energy that actually tells you when you have something in your teeth rather than letting you walk around like that all day, which I greatly appreciate. Venus ingressing into Virgo is going to bring this eye for detail and discernment to the realm that Virgo rules for us. We're going to be noticing things we otherwise wouldn't and may even overlook if Venus wasn't there. But Venus is there, and the mistakes, the missteps, and the messes will be cleaned up throughout Venus's time in Virgo. Fixing things is a big one for this Venus, which means acts of service will also be big. We'll be prone and pushed to do some acts of service for ourselves and others. Venus in Virgo shows love and care by simply paying attention, by being present, by being an active listener, by taking in the details. With Venus in Virgo and Mars in Gemini, details really matter right now. Mercury is retrograde, so we have to be cautious about not getting hung up on those details because both Venus and Mars, their ruler, is retrograde right now. But it's still important to take note, which means we should slow down. We should really digest the details, really get to know what we're getting into before we decide to go back to college for something that we might not even use or might not even be pertinent to our current career. We should really think about that before we do it. So it's really important to not get hung up on the details, but also not ignore them. Right after Venus ingresses into Virgo on Thursday, it hits a trine with Chiron in Taurus on Friday. Chiron in Taurus has been subtle so far, at least for me. You can let me know if your experience has been different. My Taurus people, I don't have any natal Taurus placements, so it's not been super loud yet. But this trine with Venus is also happening when there's a square with Chiron and Jupiter. Jupiter's square with Chiron is pretty much an all-week thing, but we might feel it a bit more once Venus is on the scene in Virgo. We might try to do too much too fast with our wounds in Chiron throughout the week, and then when Venus's trine kicks in, there's going to be some real thought, care, consideration, and problem-solving skills added to the equation. Venus is going to be able to see the wound, the issue, the problem, the kerfuffle for exactly what it is, and we're going to then know how to help, how to be of service. Jupiter has really good intentions with Chiron, but it being in Leo and Chiron being in Taurus right now, they just don't really agree about how to go about the healing process. Venus in Virgo will have a solid, systematic approach for whatever it is that's thrown at us towards the end of the week that pertains to both Virgo and Taurus. Venus also has a conjunction with Ketu, the south node, at the end of the week. The Hellenistic view of the lunar nodes is vastly different than other viewpoints and schools of thought. In my world, the nodes increase and decrease. That's it. I have an article detailing the lunar nodes from a traditional perspective on my Substack if you're interested in learning more about how I view them and work with them. But basically, this conjunction with Venus and Ketu is going to drain Venus. So we might be feeling a little tired, a little annoyed, a little overstimulated come the weekend, especially within the realm that Virgo rules. The wounds we deal with from Chiron, they might be a little exhausting, especially if we muddied it up with Jupiter's energy early on through the week before Venus got on the scene. So give yourself time to step back and take care of yourself this weekend as needed. Venus is both a love and money planet, so both relationships and finances can be draining endeavors this weekend. Don't spend more than makes logical sense in both social and monetary ways. Even though Virgo is my 12th house, I'm super excited for Venus to roll through. There's nothing wrong with a little dedicated contemplation time, and I'm sure it'll help my meditation routine. Enjoy the week. Remember that we're working with Mercury's retrograde energy in Cancer, and that both Mars and Venus will be Mercury ruled come the end of the week. This means we need to take life at a steady pace, not a slow pace, but a consistent, steady jog. We need to keep feeding our energy, keep the hamster wheel moving, not too slow, not too fast, just a nice consistent feed of energy. And we also need to have our head on a swivel so that we can keep track of all the details. Have a good one, and I'll see you back here next week. Thank you for tuning into this week's forecast. If you want more astrological content, including horoscopes, retrograde guides, and occult ramblings, subscribe to my Substack at Delana. It's the best way to keep up to date with my work and to never miss a post. To book a reading with me, sign up for my mailing list on my website, moonmattersastrology.com. I'll meet you back here next week, but until next time, later days.